And now, introducing Casey Carter.
Hey, it's Wednesday. It's Casey, and it's time for Casey at Night. Okay, I've been sitting here getting myself together for like the last hour. I thought it would never be 7 o'clock. First of all, it is 7 o'clock, and I'm on, as opposed to when I used to be on at 8. So, for those of you who found me, hey! And speaking of those of you who found me, here's Lorenzo. Here's Jason. Hey guys, so glad you're here. I appreciate you all because you all show up regularly for Casey at Night. So thank you. Mwah. So I just have to say, I absolutely missed you all. I missed doing the show, but Exotica had me super crazy busy. It seemed like every 6 weeks I was at another Exotica convention, and basically by Jersey in October, I got burnt out. I didn't have it in me anymore to do Exotica, BoobTube, Casey at Night, the holidays. So I took a break. And during that time, thank you, Lorenzo. During that time, I thought a lot about what I wanted to bring you guys in 2022. So, normally Casey likes to do a little sex ed. Okay, I like to do a lot of sex ed. But this year, we're going to talk about sex ed, current events as it relates to sex ed. And I'm bringing a shitload, a dump ton of friends to talk about how to get your sexy back. Well, if you have to get it back, if you have to make it bigger, whatever the case is. But we are going to kill it in 2022. I mean, if you are not a freaking beast, whether with your partner, partners, or yourself, then you were not paying attention. You were not watching Casey at Night, because that's what I'm here for. I'm all about getting that sexy going. So tonight is not going to be so friendly. But tonight, I wanted to talk about something that sort of jumped out at me over the weekend. And, first of all, I'm hoping to get reactions from the audience. If you are watching right now, I can see your posts from YouTube. I can't see if you're watching me on Twitter. I can't see your comments live during the show, but I can see them if you're on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, definitely jump over to YouTube to be able to comment and chat and get your thoughts in. Because today, straight out the gate, I want to talk about Bill Cosby. Because according to Kamal Bell, we need to talk about Bill Cosby. Thank you, Jason. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. And I agree wholeheartedly. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. I watched the Showtime special, and it's a 4-part series. I believe Lorenzo said all 4 episodes are technically not available, but if you got a Fire Stick or streaming, all 4 episodes are available. And let me tell you, I binged watched. Like, I started with the first episode when Lorenzo suggested it and was like, oh yeah, this is really interesting. I learned a lot about the start of his career and all of that. And I started the second episode, and because in the first episode you get a taste for the fact that it was well known that Bill Cosby was into using Spanish fly, the fact that women were being exposed or having these experiences with him. And in that time, during that time, which was the late 60s, early 70s, they didn't really know, like, was it me? Did I do this? What happened? Because Spanish fly basically kind of is like a, I guess it's back then that was the date rape drug, right? Like you were given Spanish fly and it sort of, you know, took you somewhere where you next day don't remember what happened. And like with other date rape drugs, you wake up disheveled and you sometimes you feel it physically, but all of the mental memory is gone. And Bill Cosby, back in the day, like we heard about it recently, but back in the day, hey, Miss Penelope Proper, back in the day, Toxic Goddess, yes, lovelies, mwah, mwah, mwah. Back in the day, Bill Cosby freely talked about giving people Spanish fly, freely talked about how much you needed to give. I think he was on Larry King Live or somebody's talk show, and they made the comment about, how much do you need to give? And he was like, you just need to give as much as can fit on the head of a pin. And I'm like, okay, wait, we're talking about this like it ain't nothing. He talked about it so much, he recorded albums that had him talking about giving Spanish fly, right? So long ago, Bill Cosby had established the fact that he was that dude. He was that dude. And it was, honestly, it was very challenging for me to watch that program, for me to watch that documentary, because it was filled with African American women, men, people who knew him personally from having worked with him, people who knew of him because they were in the media, and they all had an opinion of, Bill Cosby, the Bill Cosby they knew, and the Bill Cosby that we learned about in the news, but the Bill Cosby who's always been Bill Cosby. Um, and so I don't know about all of you. I don't know how you feel about Bill Cosby now versus how you must have felt about him back in the day. But in going through his history, where, I mean, we're talking groundbreaking. We're talking, he dropped out of college, became a comedian, was a huge success as a comedian right out the gate, was given a leading man, or I guess you can say a co-leading man role in the TV series I Spy. Unheard of in that time in history. It was 1965 to 1968. That was unheard of for an African American man to be a leading character and to not be, you know, to be portrayed in a light that was less than favorable. He even went as far as to demand that his stuntman be black, because up until then, if you were African American and you were in a production, a film, a TV show, and it required a stuntman, that person would be black. I mean, would be white, and they would be painted black. They even showed this African American female who was she was in James Bond, and she was doing a stunt, and they used a white guy in black paint to to be her stunt double. So Bill Cosby, right from the very beginning, was super, super, super instrumental in making things happen for the African American community. And he was super, super accepted. Like, without question, he fit right in. And it was crazy. It was crazy because they said one of the comments that was made was, as his accolades skyrocketed, because he was writing and producing records that were winning Grammys. He was in TV shows that were, hugely successful. I Spy was on 3 years, but it was hugely successful. He was on The Electric Company. He had another program that was educational for kids. They were huge, 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 huge. And as his accolades skyrocketed, so did his assaults against women. And it blew my mind that we didn't, or well, I was too young to have heard about it, but it blew my mind that it wasn't talked about more because it was happening so readily. Yeah, Jason, we used to all watch Bill Cosby. We all watched Bill Cosby. I mean, aside from what he did with Electric Company, he was, where's my note on this? He, his the Fat Albert. Fat Albert was huge. I, as a kid, grew up on Fat Albert. I was named after I Spot Kelly, the tennis player. Oh, see, learn something new every day. Thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate that. So yeah, and if you were to go look at his accolades, I mean, he's got writer, actor, producer. He's got all these accolades for things you've seen. Some of them not so good, but some of them are like absolutely utterly amazing. Like to the extent that, again, I was conflicted having to hear the dirty truth of what happened because they had some of the women that he had drugged on the show. And, it really got me to thinking. This is a guy who, at one point, they said NBC was the number 3 network and had been for like 10 years in a row. And they put the Cosby Show on and they went to number 1, like instantly. Like, we're talking pre-Friends, pre Jerry Seinfeld's, the Seinfeld show, pre all of those things. Bill Cosby owned Thursday on NBC. It was the channel everybody watched, and everything that came on after Bill Cosby, whether it was while he was still running or after the show was officially off, that time slot was fire because of Bill Cosby. At one point, one episode of Bill Cosby had 65 million viewers. 65 million viewers. And I think they said at the time that represented 1/3 of the US population. So 1 out of every 3 people had watched this one particular episode. I don't recall which episode it was, but again, it brought me to this disconnect. This disconnect of, here is a guy who was considered America's dad, not America's Black dad, not America's African American dad, America's dad. Everybody wanted to be a Huxtable. I mean, here, look at this. This is the family. Now, you got to understand, for African Americans, when Heathcliff Huxtable and Claire and the kids showed up, I forgot the sound effects were on that. Like, folks lost their mind. The African American community lost their mind because we thought, woo, finally we get to see a positive reflection of an African American family. Little did we know, every family wanted to be the Huxtables. Everybody. And again, there's this dichotomy. There's Heathcliff Huxtable, super duper family man, super husband, super dad. And they kept showing clips, even within the Cosby Show, of Cliff Huxtable, or as they were saying, Bill Cosby himself playing Cliff Huxtable. He was still in his predator mode. They pointed out the fact that Bill Cosby, or rather, Heathcliff Huxtable was an OBGYN, and he brought women to his house in the basement. So when they first made that comment, I was like, didn't quite register. Didn't really register. And then they said, even as Heathcliff, the predator in him was bringing women home to his house where his wife and family were so that he could fondle them, put his hands on them, put his fingers in them, all of the things that he did. And again, my mind was blown. I, I mean, here's another. This is like a classic scene from the Cosby Show.
Now, here we go. You know the nighttime now is the right time to be with the one you love now. Say now, oh baby, say now, come on, baby, I wanna be the one I love now. You know what I'm thinking of. All the nighttime, oh, it's the right time to be the one you love now. I said to be the one you love. Oh, sing a song, my baby.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Toxic. That was one of my favorite scenes too. They showed that scene in the special, and I am not gonna lie, it actually brought me to tears. And I'm gonna tell you why. It brought me to tears because that scene reminded me exactly why we loved that show. The generational family love, the coming together to celebrate one another, this image of this happy family. And the truth is, it wasn't what it looked like. It wasn't what it looked like in real life, and it wasn't what it looked like on the show. Because little did you know, and again, I highly recommend you watch the show. But little did you know, Bill Cosby was taking women to his dressing room at the show. He had an assistant who was straight up escorting models back and forth to his room in front of everyone there. Like the whole cast saw it. They were talking to the gentleman who played Denise's husband, and he was like, I didn't think anything of it. I thought he was just helping these models get their acting career going. Yeah, well, you also said the only time he ever closed his dressing room door was when he had these women in his, dressing room. So, please, I'm really curious to know what some of you thought of the Bill Cosby situation, what some of you, how you felt, because this also came during our Me Too moment. This came at a time when everybody seemed to be hit with allegations of sexual abuse, sexual assault. And it all seemed so crazy because some of these people were people that, rumor had it, but no, 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 no. You see them every day. Matt Lauer and Kevin Spacey and all these people who you saw every day who portrayed themselves in a super positive way, and then all of a sudden, lights out. Hey, Chris, lights out, and they turned out to be scuzzy. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. I mean, please, what do you think now? What are you thinking when you hear Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years and then was let out? What do you think about when you hear the question of can you separate the art from the artist? Because these are questions that are real. Like I legit was busy asking myself those questions. And I'm gonna do a quick break, but I want to ask you, I'm asking all of y'all, what do you think? How do you feel about Bill Cosby being out? How do you feel about all of these people who are artists who you find were actually predators? Do you still support them? Do you still like their music? Do you still play R. Kelly? Do you still find, Bill Cosby funny? So when I come back, we're going to talk about that.
I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need, tell them giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front, exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need, tell them giddy up.
All right. So we're back. And Ms. Toxic Goddess, who's going to be a guest on Casey at Night? Can I just say, wait, hold up. Wait a minute. Before I even tell you what they said. Hold on. Let me just go ahead. I'm going to just do this more than once just to get it over with. So Ms. Toxic Goddess is going to be one of my first guests with Josh Pele Magic. But anyway, we're going to come back to that. So, Ms. Toxic Goddess, her comment was, he is a person, no matter if he is a great actor or not. The behaviors that were exposed just have me shaking my head. I'm with you. Mr. Markland says, don't listen to R. Kelly because of kids. Cosby, I'm still on the fence about that one. How did his wife miss? That right there, Lorenzo, we're going to talk about that. How did his wife miss all of this activity, even when some occurred in their house while she was there? Yeah, that's the thing right there. And do you think his wife knew, was an observer, or was a participant in some things? So Lorenzo and I play this game all the time. We want to know, what did Camille know? When did she know? Okay? Because this is Bill doing this stuff in his house where his wife and kids live. He didn't think about this. Put this in perspective. He didn't have a side house. He didn't have a bachelor pad. He didn't have a trick pad. He didn't get a hotel room. He did it right there in his house. And you can't tell me Camille was out of town every time. He did it right there in his house. And I'm not talking just the Philly house. He did this when he was in Massachusetts as well. Okay? Bill was bold enough that he could bring these people to his house, drug them, sex them, and then send them on their merry way in the morning. Let's see, Toxic says, of course she knew. He was just comfortable, right, with the lifestyle she was living. And I'm trying to understand if I'm mad at Camille for that. I'm going to be real with you. I'm trying to decide, do I feel some kind of way that she probably did know and just was like, fuck it, it is what it is? Because again, as I mentioned, he's been doing this the whole time. She was there at the very beginning of his success. This all started at the beginning of his success. There's no way that you have been assaulting women for decades in your house where your wife and kids live and she don't know. Okay? See, even Hustler, his wife knew. That's why she wasn't living there anymore. I think the reason why she probably didn't live there anymore is because everybody else knew. Up until the point we all knew his dirty laundry, she was all right. Because we as women, we take the position of, as long as you don't embarrass me in front of people, as long as you don't embarrass me, as long as you don't do anything that I got to hear about later, fine. The minute that shit was in public and everybody knew, and the question started arising, what did Camille know and when did she know it? And then we're all going, there's no way she didn't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Toxic. She wasn't giving up that comfort. Right. And this is where I, as a woman, I sit there saying, huh, what would I have done? I know I can sit here and talk trash about Camille and question her choice to stay, but would I have stayed? Would I have tried to establish some sort of an arrangement so that I could maintain the lifestyle for which I had got accustomed to? Or do you call into question Camille's own self worth? Beautiful woman, educated. Um, but do we have to call into question her self worth? Do we have to? I mean, because quite frankly, she could have said, yo, I'm out, cut my check. But then again, I think Lorenzo and I were talking about Dr. J. Was it Dr. J, Lorenzo? And we were like, yeah, he didn't let it go because it was cheaper to keep her, but not necessarily have to live with her. Toxic says, if it's not directly in her face, just as many other women just passed by the behaviors. Yeah, right. And I think that's exactly why I'm at odds with how I feel about Camille. I'm struggling with Heathcliff versus Bill Cosby. I'm struggling with the man who created Fat Albert. I'm struggling with the man who was on Sesame Street. There was another educational program that he did that was highly successful. I'm struggling with separating those things, and yet at the same time, what they said about him as Heathcliff Huxtable and what he did when he was on the Cosby Show showed there was no separation, whether in character as Heathcliff Huxtable or whether he was Bill Cosby. He was always a predator, always a predator. That, again, my mind is blown behind that. It is really genuinely blown behind that because it has me asking the question, looking back on R. Kelly, looking back on the film producer whose name escapes me at the moment, looking back on these men and the fact that everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody, in some way, there were at least one, two, or three people who were complicit in the behaviors. Toxic says she may have had insecurities as well. We don't know if she may have been a victim as well to a certain extent. Yeah, that right there. That right there. That's a fact right there. And I think um Toxic, we understand as women that uh we sometimes allow things to happen because there is a little bit of insecurity in us. You hit the right button and you can make me cower. You can make me question myself. Um yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. You know, and again, I don't know how I feel about the Camille thing. I just don't. I just, I don't know. Um, our friend Hustler here says the judge had to force her to come to court, and the entire Cosby cast had to sign contracts not to say anything for 10 years about the women being there in the green room. Yo, isn't that crazy? This goes back to, again, what I said. People knew. They knew what he was doing. He had a personal assistant that was literally escorting these women to his room. Now, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about something. For those of us who watched The Cosby Show, remember that time Denise got pregnant and he ultimately sent her off, and they basically, gave her own show, sent her off on her merry way or whatever. Doesn't it all now seem real super hypocritical? I mean, I get it. You were trying to portray this family, this ideal family. And so it wasn't a good look for Denise to be pregnant. Well, the truth is that joint happens all the time, whether you live in the projects or whether you live in a mansion. Somebody's young daughter gets pregnant all the time. So I find it hypocritical now in retrospect with all of the shenanigans that were going on. And Mr. Cosby wanted to do what they used to. Remember back in the day when you would get pregnant, like when you lived up in the Northeast and you would get pregnant and they would send you down south to have the baby, and they would, then you'd go back up like it never happened. Yeah, y'all know. Mm-hmm. Ms. Toxic also says, you also know that old school was to support and stay quiet no matter the circumstance. That right there. I think Toxic, knowing knowing, how old you are, I think we are like right there on that fringe, right? Like those of us that, came ahead of us, they're in the thick of that. We're right on the fringe. We are the children of the women who used to keep it quiet and suck it up and take care of, deal with it. We're in that mid phase where we were running our mouths, but at the same time, because it's something we watched, we oftentimes took it at first and then was like, wait, hold up, motherfucker. No, I don't think so. So yeah, that's a real thing. And Lorenzo was saying he may have made his wife watch. So now going back to Toxic's comment about her own insecurities and having possibly had her own experiences, that may have been the thing right there. It may have been like a reverse cuckold where he made her watch him have sex with these other women, and in some case, to some extent almost dare her to say something. They used to be sent to a school to have their babies without anyone knowing the truth. Yep, that's a fact. That is a fact. And I'm in the generation where the babies came to school with you. Okay, Sabrina, that's right. That's right. So Toxic and I are still in that generation where you went down south, where, but we're also on the front end of the generation that Sabrina talks about, where you went to school all pregnant and you had your baby in school. I was telling Lorenzo that when I lived in Florida, there was a high school that had a playground, a children's playground. And I thought, clearly y'all must have kids with babies, because there's no reason for y'all to have a children's playground at the high school. But, anyway, I digress on that. But yeah, there's a lot there to talk about with Camille. And I don't think we're ever going to know what went on in Camille's head. Like, I don't think, it's just never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. And so in the last episode, they were talking about the effect of Bill Cosby, or the potential effect of Bill Cosby being released early. So in September of 2018, he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years. Yeah, I gotta get this up here. Camilla's gonna take that to the grave. That's facts right there. Yeah. So Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in September of 2018. In June of 2021, he was released from prison, not jail, prison, state prison. He says his conviction was overturned by Pennsylvania's highest court. So when they say the state's highest court, it's the equivalent to the Supreme Court of the federal government. And for whatever reason, they let him go. Now, I didn't get a chance to quick look up the whys of letting him go, other than they overturns the conviction. The fuck? You did what? Again, overturned the conviction. I'm sorry. 60 women had accused him of assaulting them. And yes, statute of limitations ran out for a lot of these women. But really? Really? And so the result of him being released has women asking, why do I bother? Why do I bother? I already know that if I take the stand, that I'm going to be basically run through the ringer. They're going to talk shit all about me and put me through something. Hustler says she had to be a victim for her not to be at his side in court, not visiting him in prison, not celebrating him with him getting out. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Here it is. He's convicted. He's sentenced to 3 to 10 years, and already you're going, that's it, just 3 to 10 years. And then he gets out, and as Hustler points out, wife nowhere to be found. Camille don't know the nigga. She don't know nothing. This for the last 3 years, I ain't had to say nothing to nobody. I could just hide out and be good. Now he gets out, and it's like, even though she wasn't listed as a victim, she's also re-victimized by the fact that we are now running the story all over again because he's let out. So now we've got to hear about all of the people who said he had assaulted them, about what happened on the trial, and who could and couldn't, file charges. And dude, this is again why we, out of one side of our mouth, encourage women to report sexual assault, and at the other side of our mouth, we're like, yeah, it's all right. He's sorry. We can let him go. It's okay. Like, dude has been a predator for decades. His career started in the 60s. So did him being a predator. Right from the gate. Like, right out the gate. Dude was a predator. And again, I'm trying to wrap my mind around that. I don't know. He got out, and that was a slap in her face. And having the anxiety to have to possibly relive certain behaviors again. Exactly. Dude. Like I said, the women who accused him were re-victimized by him coming out, because they were re-victimized on the stand, when they were telling their story, when everybody was telling stories about them. But then they let him out, and now they were a victim again. But also the truth of Camille. The truth of the fact that she was also a victim. It is now out, whether we like it or not. And again, I'm asking, I don't know how I feel about all of this. I'm angry. I'm angry that women, and this got nothing to do with Bill Cosby or the victims specifically. I'm angry at the fact that no matter what, like, I am an African American woman, and I always tend to have to deal with my color before my sex. But I'm angry at the fact that women are still treated like we ain't shit. Like we're worth nothing. If I guarantee you, if Bill could have put Camille on the stroll, shoot, for all we know, Bill made Camille participate in some way. I dare to let my imagination run wild. But I'm telling you right here, right now, I'm so angry at the fact that women, every time we think something has gone right and is worked out, it does not work out the way we thought. It just doesn't. I don't. I just. What does Lorenzo say here? He can start doing it again, and no one can say they didn't know. Yeah. So, what's interesting about that comment is one of the women from the interview she recognized the fact that something had happened. He gave her a drink of something. She drank it. She immediately felt this reaction in her body. She woke up the next day and she looked a hot mess and she was just feeling sick. And, he was like, oh no, and then she kind of sort of felt, like these foggy memories, but she couldn't quite put it all together. And then he invites her back out again. And she goes back out again with him. And I felt initially like, dumb bitch. And then I had to take it back. I had to take it back because, again, this was one of those women from the 60s and 70s who blamed herself. So when she went out with him again or went to his house again or the hotel or wherever he was at, whatever that was, she instinctively felt funny about being there, but it wasn't fast enough to prevent her from being there again. She literally put herself back in that position again. And I wonder about us, in terms of women often repeat scenarios. Not solely because we get comfortable in the scenario, but because we blame ourselves and we say, oh, I did something wrong. I must have said, I must have done. It's not their fault. And so we try or do or put ourselves in that position again. We got to stop. We have got to stop. It's just, I don't know. Lorenzo says he's been given a hall pass by the court system to do whatever he wants. Dude. Oof. And Toxic. He made a name for himself and women during his high life wanted a piece of it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm so struggling with how I feel about this. I'm not gonna lie. I am. One of the other comments that was made, Bill Cosby is a master at his craft, whether acting, comedy, or raping, he is a master. That comment blew me away. It tripped me out. I had to pause after this woman said it. Because it started off so simple, so straightforward. And then she ended with, whether acting, comedy, or raping, he is a master. Okay. Okay. Yeah, yes. It so true. And that's why I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It just was. So they talked about rape culture needing to be changed. You need more women in power, and this is what was key. Men, having to pay for their crimes. That right there. More women in power, and that's a statement that can be made across the board. You can say that about corporate America. You can say that about any industry, government, entertainment, whatever it is. You can say you need more women sitting on the highest levels of the organization. But it's this men having to pay the price for their crimes. That's the part we are not getting to. That's the part that until it happens. Remember when we went through our Me Too movement and everybody was like every dude paused for a second, like, wait, did I do something? Are they going to come for me? I mean, it seemed like every dude famous had somebody coming for them. not everybody lost money directly. You may have like I can't remember his name, the gentleman that I just drew a blank. There's folks who lost TV shows, and so yeah, they lost money, but that's not quite the same because a lot of them then circled back and ended up with something else that put money back in their pocket. So again, until men are hit financially, because as you see, convicting doesn't do anything because Bill Cosby got convicted, did some time, and now he's out. And I'm sure Bill Cosby will make a little bit dough. Weinstein. Yeah, Weinstein. And that's not even who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the guy who was in The Usual Suspects. He was on the TV show on Netflix where he played a president or he played a senator trying to become the president. And he got caught messing with some boy up in the New England area. You know who he is. You know who he is. Hustler says in most of his old comedy shows, he admitted using drugs, especially Spanish Fly. Right. We talked about that in the very beginning. Exactly. And so why folks were surprised and were questioning it blew my mind. And here's what, and I didn't write his name down, but the reason Bill Cosby actually got blown up on this isn't because somebody actually took a woman serious. Isn't because a whole bunch of women accused him. It's not even because famous women accused him. It's because some comedian made jokes about Bill Cosby being accused of rape. I forget his name right now, but he wasn't even intentionally trying to get Bill Cosby in trouble. He was just telling jokes. He was literally on stage talking about the fact that Google Bill Cosby rape and there's more hits than if you Googled this other person. And the other person just happened to be him. But that was the thing. That was how Bill Cosby, Spacey, thank you. Yes. That was how Bill Cosby actually got on the radar for the raping. Decades upon decades of raping women, and somebody tells a joke about him raping women. And that's how we finally find him in court. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. So one of the last scenes in the show is an interview with Jerry Seinfeld on the Stephen Colbert show. And Jerry Seinfeld makes this comment about, I guess the question must have been, who's your favorite all-time comedian or whatever the case is. And Jerry Seinfeld says Bill Cosby. And Stephen Colbert kind of was like, and Jerry was like, no, you got a problem with that? And Stephen Colbert is like, yeah, no, can't do it. What was interesting is Jerry Seinfeld's face was like, Like he was trying to figure out why Stephen Colbert had a problem with, him saying Bill Cosby was his favorite comedian. And they followed that up with what they call the Bill Cosby question, which in my opinion, you could probably call it the R. Kelly question. But they refer to it as the Bill Cosby question. Can you separate the art from the artist? And should you? So I mentioned this a little while ago. Can you separate the art from the artist? Can you dislike R. Kelly but love I Believe I Can Fly? Can you dislike Chris Brown but still love his music? Can you dislike Bill Cosby but still be a fan of Heathcliff Huxtable, still appreciate Jell-O pudding, still love Fat Albert, still want to watch all of the things that he's done in his lifetime? Can you separate that? Or is it all or nothing? Is it the whole thing, or can you parse out that part and give credit to the gifts and talents and callings? My mom and I used to have conversation about R. Kelly because we had an artist that recorded "I Believe I Can Fly," and this was way back when the song was still hot, and they hadn't at that point given anyone a license to do the song. And so when I think back on that, she and I, had a conversation, and we were like, it was an amazing song. It was clearly divinely inspired. So, can you appreciate the artistry and still tell the artist to kick bricks? I don't know. Yeah. So Lorenzo says the public never separated Michael Jackson. Here's another one that, and I didn't get a chance to see all of Janet Jackson's story. Otherwise, I'd have talked about that too, because she said some things in her show, and I'm gonna have to finish, and we're gonna circle back on Miss Jackson, because she said some things during the episode that I watched that I was like, what, Miss Thang? What? Say again. Say again. Yeah. Yeah. Michael Jackson was still loved no matter what he was accused of. It's crazy. But it's facts, right? Like Michael Jackson dies and they create Vegas shows about his music. Now, I know when he died, he was working on a Vegas show, but he died and they created a whole different Vegas show. So yeah, I don't know, Lorenzo. We might be looking at a situation where yeah, maybe people don't, maybe they take the music, take the talent, take the art, take whatever they created, take whatever this person created and throw out the creator. I don't know. Hustler here. I seen it all of Janet Jackson documentary. She definitely spilled it all. Yeah, see, we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about that later because I want to talk about, I ain't gonna do it now because it's gonna take me down a rabbit hole. But we're gonna talk about that moment where they asked about the child with James and the way everybody did not answer that question. But Hustler, we're gonna talk about that. As soon as I finish watching all of it, we're gonna talk about it. So yeah. Yeah, I think there might be another one. Yeah. See? So in addition to this question of separating the artist from the art, it says they also asked, what happens when the artist you idolize isn't the human being you thought they were? And what if that person's achievements, hold on, what do we have here? What if that person's achievements, this is what happens when you write quickly, and works were so great that they changed the world. What then? That's the Bill Cosby question. So that's what I'm saying. Bill Cosby, as I said at the top of the show, Bill Cosby did some amazing things. Amazing as it relates to the entertainment industry. He got to perform in places that African Americans did not traditionally get to perform. He got to be a part of places African Americans did not typically get to be a part of. He was able to make things happen without getting the resistance of it. Like I said, he was able to have a black stuntman, and that opened the door for other people. He's done things that genuinely earned him the money and position and power that he had. R. Kelly, just hearing his name makes me sick. Just put me in a room with him for 1 hour with a surgical knife. I would be happy. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what to say. Like Kamal Bell said, we need to talk about Bill Cosby. Well, I want to thank y'all for talking about Bill Cosby with me, because I'm still trying to figure out not so much how I feel about what he did, because I think what he did is absolutely um, insane, crazy, and the fact that he got away with it for so many decades. But I really wanted to talk through how I feel about what being a predator does to women. Excuse me, what it does to women, what it does to other men. Because let's be honest, if I have been affected by a predator and then I try to have other relationships, it affects how I see these other people. And therefore, they have to be traumatized by my trauma. So, yeah, it's not just that I'm traumatized and I have issues. I then put that off on other people because I don't know how to, or I have not worked through the effects. I haven't healed my battle scars from whatever it was that I had to deal with. And, you know, it's a thing, y'all. It's a thing. It's a thing. All right. I need a minute. Just hold on a second.
I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need, tell them giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front, exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need, tell them giddy up.
Okay. Well, y'all, we got this comment here from Toxic. I think pretty much people felt sorry for Michael Jackson because of his upbringing and all the stories of the abuse and things that he went through. So they put him in a different category, even with his sexual exposures. Yeah. See, so he's the example of someone who more than likely experienced some things, because I don't know that we'll ever know how, if Michael did what he did simply because he was stuck in his childhood, or if during his childhood Michael was a victim of abuse. We just won't know. We can speculate, but I definitely think, as Toxic is saying, he experienced something, um, and it led to those behaviors. But yeah. So anyway, okay. So before I go, I got to say one more time. February 23rd, the lovely Ms. Toxic Goddess will be my guest. And so Toxic has been to my parties, and she and I have the best time when we're together. So don't miss being formally introduced to my friend Toxic Goddess. And Toxic, to keep us entertained, I brought in, or will be bringing in, Josh Pele Magic. I met Josh at Exotica. I've had some videos of him doing magic for me. We've had him on BoobTube, and I thought, Toxic, we need a little boy toy candy for the night. And what better than to have someone do some magic tricks for us? So I think he's ready. He's excited. So I'm looking forward to it. As for the rest of my calendar, so March, baby. So Toxic and Josh are my first guests for the 2022 season. But after that, we just going bang, bang, boom. We've got DV Passion. We've got Madame Gumbo. We've got Erotic Boudoir. We've got the sexpert, the sexologist, Tyomi Morgan, and my dear friend Ella. Ella is an event coordinator. I'm not allowed to say who she coordinates events for, but love her. In March, I've got the Cocky Kitty and Hi There Catsuit. And let's see, Mindbender Parties, Mizzy and Spencer. I've got the Sparks and Ms. Penelope Proper, aka the Mad Harlot, in March. April. That's April, sorry. And then I'm starting to book May. So baby, 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 don't miss 2022. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight in the premiere issue, the premiere episode for 2022, and for joining me in this conversation about Bill Cosby and how we feel about all of that. So if you're not doing anything in an hour, come back to YouTube and Twitter, because I'll be on BoobTube with Carrie Platinum Pussy, Carrie Anthony Platinum Pussy. Sorry, that's a minute. And Desirable Bottom. And of course, our executive producer, Jay, who Jason just loves Jay. So anyway, all right, y'all. I will see you next week. Bye.